Greetings to you all. My name is Mkhonzi Dlamini, and I think what Bo forgot to say was the fact that I'm a very handsome young man. Now, I know that's a very bold way of introducing myself, but I've been often told that I'm a handsome young man, so I've come to believe it. But you're probably asking yourself, what puts this handsome young man in a position to be able to tell us why we need to undergo an African Renaissance and what it means to have a Renaissance as an African people? Before I answer that question, allow me to introduce to you who I am. I was born and bred in the Kingdom of Eswatini, and I proudly identify as a Swati. Now, there are many reasons why I proudly identify as a Swati, and one of them is the fact that I pledged my services to the regiments at the tender age of 8 years old in 2011. And there I obtained the name Patsumbutfo. The name Patsumbutfo, directly translated into English, means leader of the regiments. And as Africans, we believe that the name which you attain usually dictates the life that you live. And I know that that name, and amongst my other names, it has had some sort of influence in the way that I live my life. As I mentioned, I'm a Dlamini. And for those of you who don't know, Dlamini is the royal household name in the Kingdom of Eswatini. My father is the son of Prince Maguga, who is the son of King Sobhuza II. My father has pretty much spent his entire life living a life of service. Service not only to the crown, but also to the Kingdom of Eswatini. And I know no man who has served as diligently and as faithfully as my father. My grandfather was a businessman and he was also a chief. Now, unfortunately, I barely got to spend time with my grandfather. But for any person who's had an interaction with my grandfather will tell you, diligent and fearful man. King Sobhuza II is regarded to be one of the greatest African leaders of his time. And this is probably because he attained independence for Eswatini in 1968. And he's the second longest-standing monarch after Queen Elizabeth II. Now, coming from the line which I come from, I therefore find myself obligated to be of some sort of service to my country the same way that my father and forefathers have been. And that is probably why I am so passionate about the economic growth and development of the Kingdom of Eswatini. And being passionate about the economic growth and development of the Kingdom of Eswatini, to me, directly translates into being passionate about the economic growth and development of the continent of Africa. We have many problems in Africa, and I believe that the solution to most of our problems is for us to undergo a renaissance. So, what is the Renaissance? The Renaissance is a period between the 15th and 16th century in European history, and it marked the transition from Middle Ages to modernity, and it was the establishment of a paradigm shift. Believe it or not, we as the world today are undergoing a renaissance. And that is because we've experienced significant paradigm shifts over the past couple of decades and even in the past century. And we've experienced fundamental changes in the way and our perspectives. If you were to compare the way that we live our lives today, even 50 years ago, you will realize that there's a very stark difference in the way that we live our lives and the way that we conduct ourselves. And it is true that we have negatively contributed to our and that we lack in many areas. But I believe that we have the ability to change that. We have the ability to cultivate a new identity for Africa and make this continent the great continent that was destined. Now, forgive me if I'm sounding like some sort of politician, but this matter is so close to my heart. And I believe that is of paramount importance, which is why I'd like to ask for you, please lend me your attention and your ears for these next few minutes. So, how do we cultivate this new identity? How do we undergo as an African continent? To answer that question, the first thing I think we need to do is that we need to reignite the true spirit of Africa. By the true spirit of Africa, I'm talking about the spirit that was so present in King Sobhuza II when he fought for the independence of this country many, many years ago. I'm talking about the spirit which is so present that caused him to sacrifice a large portion of his life to end apartheid in South Africa. I am talking about the spirit which was so present in Mzee Jomo Kenyatta when he saw a brighter future for Africans. This spirit was not only present in these individuals that I've named, but it was present in many other leaders and in many other individuals who saw a brighter future for Africans and who believed that Africa could be better than what it was. Unfortunately, we lost the spirit. The reason we lost the spirit is probably because we became comfortable. We thought that attaining freedom was only merely the beginning, or rather the end of the beginning of the story. And that the story of Africa is still yet to be told as loudly and as audaciously as we can possibly tell it. So we need to bring back the spirit that says we deserve more, we deserve better, and we deserve greater as an African continent. Now, there's another spirit within Africa which I think most Africans can affiliate with. And if we live by this spirit, I believe that we would attain great unity as Africans. The spirit which I'm talking about is the spirit of Ubuntu. And it is the idea that I am because you are, and that our interdependence is a function of our communities. If we lived by the spirit, we would attain great heights. There is so much power in unity, and that if we moved in unison as African people, we would achieve dreams beyond our wildest dreams, and we would get to heights that we had never imagined before. And by moving in unison, I'm not saying that we will be at the same economic levels at a given point in time. Others of us will develop faster than others. Because even with the last Renaissance, Italy led the Renaissance. The paradigm shift began in Italy, but it eventually had a multiplier effect and it spread throughout the whole of Europe, if not the majority of Europe. And within a century, the whole of Europe, if not the majority of Europe, had undergone a Renaissance. We need to be supportive of one another. That when we attain success in one area, we should make sure that we make the success. When my sister in Nairobi experienced a breakthrough, it could open doors for me in Eswatini. So it is important that when we achieve success, we make sure that we support it, we make sure that we grow it, and we make sure that it becomes an even bigger success. Because ways of thinking are very invasive, they're very pervasive. So therefore, it is important that the thought processes around our continent are thought processes that are going to build the African people and also encourage the African people. Moving on. The last thing which I think that we need to do as an African people is we need to put a narrower focus on Africa. We need to focus on who we are. We need to focus on what we have. And we need to cultivate our own why. There are problems within Africa which can only be solved by the African mind. So therefore, it is important that we stop solving African problems with Western world solutions. And that the solutions which you cultivate for Africa must be solutions which are directly relatable to Africa. When we solve these problems, we have many problems, I know. But it is important, and I think it is very important, that we also understand the fact that we also have basic problems within our economy. We need to tailor-make our solutions for Africa. And part of what tailor-making our solutions for Africa comes with is elevating our ways of thinking. Because simply that is what a renaissance is, a change in perspective. When we change our perspective, only then can we solve these problems. We have basic problems, such as the fact that we have not undergone a green revolution as an African people, and yet we have the most arable land within the entire world. It's eccentric. And by saying we have basic problems that require basic solutions, I am not saying that we should not be more innovative or more creative. But what I'm saying is that we need to redefine what innovation and creativity means for us. African people are some of the most creative people in the world. But we need to start channeling our creativity in a direction that will lead us to attain great heights for the African economy. So, in closing, a renaissance doesn't offer guarantees. It offers possibilities. And it is up to you and I to recognize those possibilities. It is our job to change the perspective of Africa. Because according to Brunelleschi's notion of perspective, what you see depends in which you look at it from. And I choose to see Africa in its beauty, in its might, and in its greatness. And so should you, in order for us to